Hi friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Brittany. For those of you who are new, welcome to all my new subbies. How y'all doing? Today's message is actually going to be titled "The Ladies at the Royal Palace, All Them Nice Young Ladies Will Be Disappointed." Okay, because we have to think about things as this, right? When God speaks to you about anything, it's a final thing, right? As believers, there are some things like especially if God communicates with you regularly, like you're a person that actually communicates with God. You pray, God speaks to you in dreams and visions and things like that. If you're a person that communicates with God, this message is for you. If you're not a person that has a relationship with God, then this message is not even for you. This message is for an anointed woman of God, women of God, women that pray, women that read the Bible. This message is for anointed women of God, okay? And so this message is actually coming from Esther 2:8 and 9. I was actually just reading over like my notes and my highlights in Esther, right? And so starting with chapter 2, verse 8, it says, when the king's order and edict had been proclaimed, many young women were brought to the citadel of Susa and put under the care of Haggai. Esther also was taken to the king's palace and entrusted to Haggai, who had charge of the harem. She pleased him and won his favor. Immediately, he provided her with her beauty treatments and special food. He assigned to her 7 female attendants selected from the king's palace and moved her and her attendants into the best place in the harem. So she instantly got the favor. She instantly got the promotion, right? This was an instant thing. This was an act of God. Esther was in a beauty pageant, so everything that she had, a lot of these other women had. But what made her find the favor is her ability. God knew, and I'm so glad that we have this story in the Bible of how the Jews would need to be delivered later, how even the king Xerxes would need to be delivered later. One of his main guards was planning to put a hit out on him, and because of Esther's connection, and because she had somebody on her side that was able to hear and bring back that news, that hit was canceled. Okay, so they needed each other. So more so, when God puts you with someone, this person being nice looking, this person being, oh, this person is attractive, because I believe in relationships that make sense. Financially, it has to make sense. Physically, it has to make sense, because sex and children and all of these things are a part of marriage. So can God change somebody's heart and give them somebody who they didn't find attractive initially? That could actually happen, but physically, it has to make sense. You know, emotionally, it should make sense. Financially, it should make sense, because God is not the author of confusion. It has to make sense. But what makes sense for you might not make sense for the next person, but initially it has to make sense and come together. Okay? Because two can't walk together unless they agree. So, she immediately won the favor because God knew what he wanted to do with that union. Furthermore than fleshly things, he knew what would come to pass in that union in due time. Esther also was able to get into the presence of God. Now, whereas he had Vashti as an option with his flesh, okay, was pleasing to his flesh because she was also a beautiful woman. Let's think about the hit that would come later. Let's think about the Jews that needed to be saved later. Let's think about all these things that actually came at a later date, at their appointed time, for God's appointed revelation of what he wanted to do with that relationship. It was far more bigger, but she won the favor, as he said that she was beautiful as well. She was beautiful and anointed woman of God. She knew how to fast and get in the presence of the Lord. We don't know if Vashti was able to do that, but we do know that she was pleasing to the flesh. She was physically appealing, and we know that even to this day, the enemy can still use women that are pleasing to the king's flesh. It's not a coincidence that the Jezebel and all of these things is located, her story is located between the kings, because you have to think, when a man is a powerful man of God, or God plans to use him in a powerful way and make him a king, you know, he's going to be surrounded by some people. And if the woman is anointed, if God is bringing together an anointed union where he's going to use this man in the kingdom, he uses this woman in the kingdom, for one, you'll be able to tell because the evidence will be there. The enemy don't like it. So whatever it is, if the enemy has to get the king in his flesh and he have a few fleshly relationships, that's what the enemy will do. The enemy will target the people directly, especially for an anointed union that God has ordained to be together. Why has God shown these people that they're each other people? So you won't be entrapped by the snares. But sometimes, because we are an impatient people, sometimes we will put ourselves out there, men and women will put ourselves out there like, well, this is, I heard you, what you said, God, but this is what I have access to right now. If I date this person, that'll be harmless, whatever. Because we still, at the end of the day, have free will and we still can do what we want to do. And I believe the creator, who's all knowing of all hearts and all minds, he knows the outcome of all of this. This is not like, this is not a game to us. Like, God knows he knows the outcome. There we go, Holy Spirit, thank you. He knows the outcome of these relationships, okay? And so other women was in the vicinity. Other women will be in the vicinity when a king is present. They can serve as distractions. And so we always, I hear people talking about counterfeit this, counterfeit that. Counterfeit is not always a bad thing. And I talk about that a lot too. Sometimes, people are just dating. Sometimes people have revelation of who their spouse is going to be before their spouse actually have the revelation. So there's a lot of different moving parts and moving elements to the kingdom spouse journey. Okay. Sometimes you just see it and you know it. And, God don't have to speak to you before. But sometimes if you're anointed and this union will take a lot to get together, God will speak to you beforehand, because guess what's coming before the union? All of the counterfeits are coming beforehand, and all of these things, right? All of these, like the enemy is going to can attack your finances, your household, like all type of things will begin to happen before these unions actually come together, to try to get people to lay down the promise so the unions don't have to come together. And you have to think, the more mighty, the more purposeful of a union, the harder sometimes it is to come together. Why? Because the enemy wants you to just drop it and do something else, so you can fall outside of the will of God, his perfect will, because we have his permissive will, which just goes with our free will, right? But again, wherever the king is, especially if this is an anointed union, don't be surprised if there's witches there. We not praying about no witches every single day. That's not what people of God do. But if God makes something known to you that this person is spiritually oppressed due to something, you add that to your prayer and you move on. Every day we not praying about counterfeits. We shouldn't be. Every day we not praying about witches. Every day, because when God tells you that you're going to be in a union, he gives you your assignment. So you're supposed to be so focused in your assignment that it doesn't matter what's going on over here. Now, if God brings things to your attention, you just add them to your prayer and it's smooth sailing. You keep going, because none of these things have the power to stop the will of God. Okay. Just like the Jezebel is wherever the king is, there may be a witch, there may be narcissistic women or men, because a narcissist can be a woman or a man. This is just a selfish, a person with selfish intent. It does not, this spirit, the narcissistic spirit, does not take account of, it just has its own selfish intentions. It's not really about both of us. It's more so about beneficial to me if I was a narcissistic person than it is about the will of both of us, if that makes sense. Okay. And rightfully so. When God is showing you a king that you're going to be with later down the line, this man is a man of ambition. This man is a man of purpose. This man actually looks good. This man is actually a good thing. So I don't want anybody to fall into that temptation that nobody else is going to want the person, just like I'm not going to fall into the temptation that nobody else will want the woman or the man, or however this may go, because God sometimes will give you the revelation ahead of time. He does this purposely so that you don't get caught up with a counterfeit when it's time for these things to come together, so that you're not ensnared by things of the enemy. Okay. And so rightfully so. So sometimes, I don't want you guys to have it out for people that serve their purpose, doing what it is that they do and doing what they're supposed to do. Because like you have to take accountability that if God has shown you a man of God or a woman of God that he chooses for you to be with, the attraction is there. God will start telling you things about this person. God will put this person in your heart. And you can begin to pray for this person. And this person ain't going nowhere. Spiritually, this person's not going nowhere. This is something, if God spoke it, it's actually going to happen. And God is not a wavering God where he will tell you one thing and do another thing. If God spoke it, if God actually spoke that thing, he knows the heart and minds of all people. And the heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord, and he can turn it whatever way he want to turn it. This is what our Bible tells us. So he's not a wavering God where he don't know if this person will ever want you. That's not biblical. Because one thing about a man, I don't have to be a man to tell you guys this, but I've been around enough men to know men are very intentional. And when they want something, they go and get it. Okay? They're leaders in that sort. When they want something, they will go and get it. God will eventually, if you're his person, put it on his heart to come and get it. To come and get his person. A lot of the times, there's different factors. This person may have to finally get tired of touching the stove, realizing the stove is hot. Okay, this look good, but this ain't good. This ain't this. Okay, this. I thought this was my wife. This ain't it. I thought this was my husband. This is not it. And this person will eventually come into the terms that God has shown him. This person will eventually turn back to God and say, well, what do you have for me? The minute a man be still and ask God, cover me for my wife and cover my wife for me, it is so. It begins to happen. Then God can tell you, hey, I know you like this, this, and this. You're physically attracted to your wife, okay? Because I believe relationships physically have to make sense. You're attracted to this person, but this person, I have her over here hidden. If you look over her and at the characteristics as it pertains to your purpose and everything else, this woman over here that's maybe quiet, she's out the way, she's hidden by God. So you have to go to God to even get to her. This woman over here, this is your wife. Sometimes you got to steal your mind. Sometimes you have to tell God, I don't want to be involved with anything else that is not for your purpose, your will, your glory, and it's not my person. Snatch it away from me. Take it out of my heart if it's not of you. Because you guys do not want to keep going in circles and circles and circles with people that are not for you. This is talking about a relationship. It's talking about friendships. It's talking about any type of relationship. Bring the people to God. Okay? So when we talk about the citadel, it's just, I've made some points about the royal place. The place that you will actually go and meet your spouse, okay? But some of the things that could be happening at the place, because again, this can be seen as a competition. Why? You're going to make sure you look your best, but you're not competing with anybody. You just want to look your best because you look good anyway, okay? These different people do different things. There are people that are just around the king, and they know that the king like this certain type of thing. They start showing up as these type of things, doing these type of things. But the minute that man gets wisdom, he's not going to want any of that. He's not going to want any of that, because then he realized the outcome. He's going to want his wife, because he knows that his wife is attached to God. His wife is attached to his favor from God. When men have wisdom, they begin to realize this, right? And so Susan at the job, if there's something at the job, and let's just say you work with your kingdom spouse and God has shown you this person, you have to know that there will be people, other people that like this person too, okay? Because again, we're talking about people that physically make sense, financially make sense, right? And let's just say Susan knows, I'm just going to make up some names, but Susan at the job, she knows that Rob liked cheesecake. Rob has said cheesecake is his favorite thing. God has already put it in your heart. You know, you might speak to him. It might be very casual right now. And you go home. So if he has mentioned that he likes cheesecake, typically what happens is Susan is a busybody. She gonna go home and get active. She gonna come back to work and have a cheesecake. So if something happened on Friday, she's gonna come back with a big cheesecake that you can't even get a piece of. What I want you to do is not be the woman that want to go home and be in competition with Susan at the job, because this is not that type of competition. This is what I want. The favor comes from God. God eventually turns on the light. God eventually removes the veil. God reveals, okay? The favor comes from God, okay? So you don't need no help with being seen. You just have to be being obedient to your purpose and whatever it is that God is telling you to do. You don't have to do anything to feel like you don't be the woman to go home and want to make no cheesecake for this man. Because and something just something just a little that I'm just gonna add, God may have already shown you that this man likes cheesecake, but he ain't gonna have you doing it prematurely. He's saying that, oh, I done showed you how to make the best cheesecake in 10 minutes, right? And he done put that in you to save because you like, I kind of like cheesecake too. But that ain't your thing, because this is not no competition. God reveals, right? Just like with Facebook, social media, period. Social media, and because we have social media at our fingertips, we have a lot more access than we would typically have had back in the scriptural times, okay? So now you have a lot more access because people from all over the world can connect with you, and you can connect with them, and vice versa. So think it not strange, okay? Because again, I don't want anybody to think that someone can take their spouse from them. When God says the thing is final, he doesn't waver, okay? If God said it. But I know you guys, and because I know people deal with this, right? Where you're on social media with your person, you have access to their page. Whether it's Instagram, TikTok, whatever, you have access to their page. They do their thing. And there's always the people that's just gonna come and present themselves. Oh, the king likes this. Okay, I'm gonna talk about this. Even so much so to, let's just say your spouse got up and put something wrong on social media. Just something that's totally out there. You like, what? Like, if I was in this person's presence, I would tell them, like, why would you say that? Like, that don't even make no sense. Or like, what do you mean by this? Whereas it's a bunch of women or a bunch of men that's coming like, you ain't wrong, friend. That's right. Like, it's just things that happen. But I don't want you guys to get into a competitive mindset. If anything, withdraw and retract. Because one of the things that I am able to do is be around different men in different groups. Now, I can't speak from a man directly, but I work with men. I have men in my family. I watch podcasts. Like, I be in a business sometimes just watching different videos and watching different things. So I can kind of gather an assumption about different things about men, right? And so don't find yourself wanting to be in a competition, because the favor comes from God. That's my point, right? And a lot of the times the enemy knows that men are physical. So physical attraction is a thing. You still can't let yourself go, okay? Because men are very physical. And a lot of the times, whereas the enemy may deal with a woman, if she needs security, the enemy will send a man who has the money and the funds, but this person could be into New Ageism. So this person would take the anointed woman of God away from God. The same way it is with the man. The man is often, they lead with their eyes. And so the enemy will send them the person that they physically is attracted to. It. They may go through 2-3 cycles of that. A person that they're physically attracted to, that's not their person, that's not helping them with their purpose, and it's just not their person. It's just not the best fit, and it just don't work out. It's just always, it keeps not working out. Why? Because the enemy, God knows us. This is the point I want to make. God knows us. So he knows the hearts and minds of us. He knows the purpose and will for us. The enemy only studies habits. So the enemy knows what you typically like, what you typically do, what triggers you, just based off of habits and monitoring spirits, because the enemy is not all seeing and all knowing. So the enemy goes off of habits of what you usually like, what you will usually do, and things like that, right? And so the women in the spirit, like, everybody wants a good man and everybody wants a good woman. So I don't want you guys to ostracize them nice young ladies that's over there, trying to petition the king, okay? Because we know that the king and the queen is appealing to everybody. This is why God reveals it ahead of times for a lot of people, because Once you become available, then there's always going to be these counterfeit things that's going to come first. And I truly feel in my heart that God will put this person in your heart, in your path, tell you intimate details about this person. This message is typically not about somebody who's confused about their person, because God will make it very clear. He will give you plenty of confirmation. He will give you intimate details about a person. He will show you this person in the spirit so that you're clear. And something just as good can still sneak and try to get in there. That's just how it works all the time. So whereas if you don't feel right, take the person to God. If you're not a person that you feel like God has spoken to you about your spouse yet, but you know that you want a spouse, then you have to be taking them to God. And that first feeling, which is typically the spirit of the Holy Spirit, intuition, knowledge, wisdom, whatever you want to call it, revelation, whatever you want to call it, when you're around a person that's not for you or not your person, your spidey senses will go off like something's wrong with the person. That is not the time to lean. That is not the time to lean more into the person. That's the time to lean more into God and ask the necessary questions so that you can see who this person is, especially in the spirit. And now we have to be in the part of our lives to where we take people to God so we can see them in the spirit. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we take the people to God so we can see these people in the spirit. This is any type of people. This is people at work, friends, relationships, all of that to see, because it's going to save you a lot of trouble later if you do this beforehand, right? So, what was I going to say next? He surrendered. God shows him his wife. His wife was off to the side, quiet and also beautiful. And the man says, "Oh, favor." He gives her the favor. True beauty, right? And favor and purpose came with his wife. So the woman that he picked was so important to where he could have ended up with Vashti, but her disobedience, took a play in that as well. But that was all purposeful for God, because he was able to see what it was that he really needed. And he found beauty in that, and purpose in that, and favor in that, right? And that's no different than it is today. This message is for a anointed woman of God. This is not a message just for anybody, because this message today is for a woman of God, okay? And so Vashti was pleasing to the flesh, not necessarily for purpose. And then Esther was there for beauty and purpose. She needed him and he needed her. She needed him to save her people from being annihilated. She needed him. He needed her because she had someone directly connected to her that stopped the hit from somebody that's supposed to protect him. So he needed her. He needed a woman that could get in the presence of God. He needed that. And so, Song of Songs 8:1. Real quick. Hold on. 8:1. It was talking about when it says, and this is the Shunammite woman speaking. It says, "If only you were to me like a brother who was nursed at my mother's breast. Then if I found you outside, I would kiss you and no one would despise me." So some of these unions, it's just like that. And some people they gonna be disappointed, because initially people don't always see what it is that God sees. And a lot of the times, think about even relationships that you may see or know where people are actually together and it physically don't make sense to you. Like if a person was with someone who's a bodybuilder and is slim and all of this, and then their spouse is like overweight or whatever, and people can begin to put out assumptions like this person is extremely tall, this person is extremely short, this person is rich, this person is poor. But God uses the foolish things of this world to shame the wise all the time. Okay, and so we don't know what it is that people see in people, but a lot of these things be bred about purpose. People fall in love with the heart all the time. Now, it makes sense to them because what beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So whatever you think look good, Somebody else might not think that look good. If you look good, we not for everybody, but you for your person. And you have to know that when God shows you a thing, that you for your person and your person is for you. So now look at all the people that think that they might be better qualified for your person. If you're a woman and you are waiting on a king because God told you to wait, you have to think about all these other women that feel like they so much more equipped. They feel like they got good jobs. They feel like they got businesses. They feel like they got whatever going on. Okay? But can they get in the presence of God for this king? Are they equipped with knowledge, wisdom, and vision? Because that's important for a king. You got to do more than look good. That's important for a king. The same thing with your wife. It's the same way with your wife. Flip it. Your wife is attached to your favor. Always. Your wife is your connection to God. Always. So, I just thought I should add that. Okay? Because for who this message is for, God presents. That's all you have to take from this message is, even if there's a physical competition in your ground, wherever it is that you're supposed to meet your spouse, whether he's your neighbor, whatever, okay? You work with this person's on social media, whatever your royal place is, somebody has to be disappointed in this story. Do we worry about that? No, but we talk about this all the time. When these unions come together, people won't like it. People that you thought was for you probably won't even like it. Why? Because somebody is coming to love you with the love of God. So everybody's not going to understand it. Some people might even feel like you don't deserve it, even if they have watched you go through failed relationship after failed relationship after failed relationship. They will still watch you be with a king and feel like you don't deserve it. It's a heart posture problem. It has nothing to do with you. How somebody feels about you has nothing to do with you anyway. To take back from this message, being in the presence of God, being obedient to God, staying in the word of God, being rooted in prayer, knowing how to go to God, how to hear from God, being in purpose, doing what it is that God has led you to do, staying beautiful, staying elegant, staying poised, all of these things. Because the Bible calls the woman the weaker vessel. It doesn't mean that she's weak, because I'm going to be a very strong woman on the side of a king, okay? But it just means that she's more delicate. She's more precious, okay? But all of this where women are just, out here after fleshly and material things. If you want to go far in this life, especially as a man, your wife, your woman has to be after more than fleshly and material things. Have to be. Women have vision. I don't know if men know that women are intelligent. There's a lot of women that are knowledgeable, not just about their craft, but knowledgeable about all things, knowledgeable about spiritual things, know how to get in the presence of the Lord, prayerful, all of these things, know how to cover herself and her family, and still can be a Proverbs 31 woman. Get up at 4 a.m. and make you breakfast before you go to work, start her business, raise the kids, come home, still be ready in the bed with her clothes off when you get off of work, and not be too tired to do it. You need a Proverbs 31 woman. And I'm sorry, I just gotta call it how I see it. I just gotta tell it like it is, because it's the truth, right? So for who this is for who this message is for, okay? God presents, God reveals, okay? Favor is going to come from the king, but this favor is initially coming from God. So once this king is submissive to God's will, God can show him that one over there, that's your wife. And then if it's a wise king, he'll sit back and observe. Okay, I see the characteristics, which means you have to be behaving as a Proverbs 31 type of woman. You can't be half naked. Not saying that you got to post scriptures. Again, if you take this message and make it be a physical thing, you go trying to do something to present present yourself. To present yourself, then you fall into trying to be in a competitive state where the women and the men, they cannot compete where they don't compare. Okay, when God says a thing is final, that's just what it is. And people won't like it and whatever, it's whatever it is. That's going to be a couple of people that's going to be disappointed because God puts together attractive, anointed, purposeful type of relationships, type of people. Okay, so this means that the woman ain't bad looking, the man ain't bad looking, and anybody would love to have them. And people don't, on the outside looking in, they don't always understand what God puts together. But you can immediately see when God puts relationships together, because a lot of the times it don't make sense to other people. That happens a lot, where you feel like this person from South Africa that met this person, from the States, and this Jamaican person that met this type of person. Like, we see it all the time. This old person that met this young type of person, whereas in the world, they would not be able to meet each other. But because of God, there is something that connects them, their royal place, which could be social media. It could be this person visiting your city from out of state. It could be this neighbor. It could be somebody you work with on a new job. It could be many different things. But I do not want the women of God or the men of God to feel like, now I have to present myself in this competition, although we know that the competition is there. But you cannot compete where you don't compare. So you don't have to do anything to make yourself known. You already, once God put it on your heart, then he eventually puts it on the man's heart as well. And if that man never comes to you, never pursues you, you have to get back in the presence of God, because men pursue and men go after what they want. A man is not going to keep you waiting forever. You have to get back in the presence of God. And there's no place like the presence of God, because God can tell you who, what, when, where, and why. A lot of people want to know when. God might not give you a date to say, hey, on December to this or this or this, and you're going to meet your person, y'all going to do this. He might not say that, but he will give you clues, and he will tell you things. That's why a relationship with God is so important, especially to connect to a word like this. Your relationship with God matters, right? And so that's the message, not to be long and drawn out, okay? The other ladies at the Citadel, wherever your royal palace is, wherever your meeting palace is, no matter what they're doing, bringing to the table, trying to offer, presenting themselves as, God turns on the favor from the king. And the man needs his wife just as bad as the wife needs her husband. Y'all need each other in purpose. So, yeah, there's fleshly things, because, again, physically it has to make sense. But you guys need each other in purpose as well. Y'all are purpose partners as well. That's the point of a kingdom marriage. You guys are going to glorify the kingdom. This relationship will glorify God. We see it a lot, whereas there's so many love stories where people meet and they marry within 6 months. They meet and they marry, and then they get to know somebody on their honeymoon. That would make no sense to the world. But spiritual things, it happens in the spirit first, and then it's made manifest for us, right? And so, but God gives us these desires. God gives us the desire to marry, to want to be married. And everybody that wants to be married is going to have a spouse. That's just the way it works. You might have to be mindful, and you may have to be running these people by God. But God wants us to, he wants us to covenant. Like, God wants us, like, he wants more children in the world. He wants to be able to get the glory from these relationships, more so than our flesh wanting the relationship. You have to believe that, and you have to know that. And so that's pretty much the message, right? Somebody has to be disappointed, but I'm glad it's not you. That's it. Somebody has to be disappointed in this kingdom spouse journey, and I'm glad it's not you. And that's the message. Bye for now.